Welcome back to the
David.
Stripe podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man. I don't think I'm here for that.
Oh, yeah. How was Blue Ridge Ruby?
It was really good. It's been a long time since I've been to a smaller conference. Like the last few years, it was all just kind of the Ruby Central conferences or Rails World. And so going to one of the smaller single track ones again was really nice.
Yeah. What was the size? I don't remember.
I think it was just over 100 people.
Yeah. I was thinking it was like 100 to 150 or something, or in that range.
I think Jeremy at one point said that the venue could have supported up to 200 if the tickets had sold, but it sounded like he broke even on the conference, so he wasn't really out any money. And
as sad as it is to say, that's a huge win. You
right?
know? It's expensive and risky. You know, you've got the venue to lock in, like what, probably a year ahead.
Yeah.
I know the Ruby Central stuff is like super long ahead because it's massive.
It's so much bigger.
Yeah. And you're competing with other conference type things that are large scale. But yeah, for those, at least you're a little bit more flexible because the venue size, like, I guess you can find other like weddings venue size type things. You know, there's probably a lot more at 100 to 200 person capacity, but still there's a limited amount. It's always a challenge, I'm sure.
It was a really good conference. I enjoyed a lot of the talks. Met some cool new people that I really ended up feeling like I connected with. Rachel Wright Munn. I've had contact with her over Slack because she's on the program committee for RubyConf with me, but like actually got to meet her in person, and she's just super cool and fun to talk to.
She's
awesome. Yeah.
Her talk about doing open source contributions, because like my open source contributions have always just been really few and far between. It's just something that's never really clicked for me before for some reason. But her talk, the way she expressed a couple of things really helped it click for me. The one thing that really stood out to me was she was talking about like the reasons to do open source. And one of my big frustrations with my job is I would love to work more with Hotwire and Stimulus and Turbo and be able to actually use those, since I've really enjoyed using them in the past when I was able to use them. But it's not a part of the stack for my job. And so I don't get to use those at all. And she called out in her talk, like, sometimes you do open source contributions because you want to work with a certain thing. You can do that. You can find a project that uses it and you can go contribute. I was just like, oh my gosh, why did it take that long for me to figure that out? For her to have to say it to me that way. This past week, I jumped onto the Ruby events repo and started throwing contributions up there to resolve issues that she or Marco or whoever have put up there. So that's been fun digging into that and actually contributing something back somewhere.
What other talks did you enjoy?
The other person I really connected with, his name was Thomas Cannon. He essentially gave the closing talk to the conference. He was really fun to talk to, and the talk was really interesting.
So you had a canon moment?
I did have a canon moment.
Sorry, I wanted to say that ever since you said that.
But
I gave my first ever lightning talk. That was also kind of a fun experience. At the meetup the night before the conference, I was just kind of chatting with people, and someone at the conference mentioned that for reasons, he told an AI to roast his code base. And I don't know, that idea tickled me so much. And I have a code base that I do some part-time support contractor work for that it is a disaster. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to tell ChatGPT to roast this code base, and then I'm going to turn that into a lightning talk. And that was pretty funny. I got some laughs out of it, which is what I was looking for. So that was a fun experience.
I think I've done that before on Podia's code base.
That should be a product you pay for.
I think someone already has made that product.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Outside of just the comedy value of it, it was really kind of interesting because like normally when I'm using AI, it's very directed towards building a feature or fixing a specific bug. But telling it to take a more kind of broad view of the app and call out problematic areas like that, still managed to reveal things I hadn't really thought about or looked at in a long time.
Yeah, because you're probably most of the time doing smaller changes or whatever. You're not looking at the overall architecture of something.
Right.
And that, I'm sure, is a good way to like step back and see that at higher level again. So yeah. Now I want to go roast everything. It sounds fun.
Everything, just burn it all down.
Yeah. Just like connected to GitHub, everything you have access to, go roast it.
Go roast, go Rails.
Yeah, there we go. Go roast.
There you go. There's your product.
Coffee beans and code reviews.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was going to say, was it a single day conference or was it 2?
This is a 2-day.
Okay.
Well, that was another thing that was kind of different. Because like with Ruby Central conferences, you only get like a 5 or 10 minute gap between talks. Jeremy was just kind of like, no, we only have 5 talks a day and there's a half-hour gap between talks so that everybody's got a chance to get up, use the bathroom, chat with people, whatever, between each talk. And that helped so much for me just because I have such a hard time sitting still for prolonged periods of time, just listening to people talk, even if it's an interesting topic. I will doze off. And so having half-hour talk and then a half-hour period to get up and get the blood flowing again was so helpful.
I can't relate to that at all. It's so weird. I would love that though, because I'm commonly like, I just need to like get up and move around for a bit. And I'm like, I want to go outside. I want to, talk to people. So I would really love it. If it's only 5 talks a day, then a 30-minute gap, I would totally be fine with. Didn't
Jason do something similar with Sin City Ruby? I think it was like a 30-minute gap between
I can't remember
talks or something. I don't remember.
I never managed to make it to Sin City Ruby, so I don't know.
I only made it to the very last one, but it was similarly sized and design and everything, and just a great time because you get so much more time to talk with the people there. I don't know, like we've always talked about the hallway track being incredibly valuable, but like if you only do that, you don't get to have a shared experience of like what people would be like, hey, what was your favorite talk? And you're like, I didn't go to any talks. And this gives you kind of the balance where you get to go see the talks, but also plenty of time to go chat with people in the breaks and everything. And then they're also kind of nice because they're divided. So like you each time will bump into different people as opposed to like a longer sitting in the hallway. And then you might get in a 2-hour conversation with a couple of people or whatever, but you need sort of the interruption in a way to like, hey, break this up, go chat with other people that you may not have otherwise.
That's a problem for me, I guess. I have certain introverted tendencies that like once I've met a certain number of new people, which varies from day to day and mood to mood, I feel kind of capped out and done. I just want to spend time with those people. I don't want to go meet new people because it's painful and it drains my energy and I hate it.
I feel you.
Hate is a strong word.
Wow.
Hate is the appropriate word.
Here's a question I got for you. If you're in a grocery store and you're grabbing some groceries and then you see someone that you know and they want to come up and talk to you, how do you feel about that interaction?
That depends on so many factors, Andrew.
I cannot stand when that happens to me. I'm like, I don't like seeing people. I don't like being forced into a conversation when I didn't expect to have one.
And that's fair. That's happened to me more than once since like I keep running into like people I go to church with, like at the grocery store. It's just kind of like most of the time, thankfully, it's just kind of like a hi, bye, since I'm heading out and they're heading in. But
oh no, I duck around a corner.
I think that's a fair reaction.
Unless it's Jason Charnes, then I run up and give him a bear hug. The bare necessities.
We need to get him back on here. It's been too long. We need a life update from Jason.
True. Yeah. So what else? Were there any like activities or after conference events or anything like that?
There were, but I didn't participate in much of them. Like I went to the hangout so that we did a pre-conference meetup the night before the conference itself. And they didn't provide any lunch or anything for the conference. It was just kind of like, there's a 2-hour open block of time for lunch. Is just go out and find a place there in downtown Asheville, which had some really good options. The Uber driver that picked me up from the airport was basically saying Asheville is kind of like the mecca of breweries and distilleries. There's just like all kinds of beer that have come to the area. And that after that happened, being that if you wanted any kind of cuisine other than maybe Russian, you could probably find it in Asheville.
What is Russian cuisine? Well,
I don't know.
I mean, as someone,
what she told me.
as someone who grew up in North Carolina, Asheville has always kind of been seen like the hippie disc golf brewery kind of area. So I knew it was big like that, but I think they've expanded a bit since I've last been out there.
But yeah, so we had some good food options all around. I went to like the final hangout the evening of night 2, but then there were a bunch of activities on Saturday that I was not able to participate in anything because I needed to get home because that day, Saturday, was my anniversary. And my wife probably didn't want me hanging out with other people all day and coming home super late.
Was one of them the Biltmore tour?
That was, I think, one of the options that Jeremy kind of put on the activities that people could do, but I don't know if anyone actually went for that.
Every time I'm talking to Jeremy, I always bring up the fact that I don't know, it sounds like it was optional this year, but in the past they've done like organized kind of trips to the Biltmore, I think. And I've always been like, dude, I don't understand why you like the Biltmore so much. Like, it's just a house.
But it's big and fancy.
I know, but...
And it has history.
I know some people, I'm not trying to knock on things that people enjoy by any means. Just going to the Biltmore house was...
I'm being facetious, Andrew. I would have no interest in seeing that as well.
Yeah. It is nice at Christmas, for what it's worth. They do a whole Christmas thing.
I think he usually organizes a hiking trip or something afterwards.
They did whitewater rafting one year.
Somebody at the conference was trying to host a whitewater rafting thing, trying to get more people to go with them. So yeah, that was a thing that at least one person was aiming to do.
And somebody's got to be giving a lightning talk in the middle of it. It's like, try not to fall out into the river.
Let's combine whitewater rafting and something with the word lightning in it. Why not?
White lightning rafting. Did you know that downtime costs $427 per minute on average for small businesses and up to $9,000 per minute for medium-sized businesses? That's every single minute. Honeybadger helps you avoid costly downtime and saves you money by combining error tracking, performance monitoring, uptime monitoring, and more into one easy-to-use platform, helping you fix outages faster than ever. Best of all, Honeybadger is free to get started, and setup takes as little as 5 minutes. Be sure to bookmark honeybadger.io. That's www.honeybadger.io.
I was going to say, what else kind of stood out? Anything else you want to talk about?
It's been a while since I've gone to a single track conference, and I usually like the multi-track thing just so that it feels like there's more options, but just having a single track and having it just be simple, and that was refreshingly calming. It's just like the one room, this is the talk, let's go. I didn't think I would like the one track setup, but I actually ended up liking it quite a bit.
One track pony.
Other than that, I can't think of anything else that stands out.
I do enjoy the one track stuff a lot. I don't have to make decisions, and I just know where to go, and it just simplifies it a whole heck of a lot. Especially when you compare it to something with, say, 5 tracks or more. That gets to be really challenging.
That's a bit much.
Because typically that's what you're deciding between 5 different things going on at once at RailsConf or whatever. And so usually, and I know you had the same challenges at RailsConf. Okay, there's 3 different ones that I definitely want to go see. A couple that maybe I'm like, I'll watch later when the videos are published. But then you're sort of paralyzed to choose between the 3. And then I would just like end up in the hallway track and decide I'm going to miss 2/3 of the ones I wanted to see anyways. So
I mean, you're a celebrity, Chris. You keep getting intercepted by people in the hallway.
Yeah, that is for sure. But like, I would break off and go see a talk if it was like the only thing going on. And it would be more likely to also pull those people with me and say, let's just go sit down at the and watch this talk together or whatever. But if everybody's like going off in different directions or whatever, it just means a little bit more chaos and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've always liked the 1 or 2 track. Like 2 tracks is also really nice because then if you don't particularly care about whatever the talk is, because you use inertia and the current talk is hot wire or something, then like a 2-track one gives you an alternative for everything,
yeah.
which is how Rails World has traditionally been. And I think that's a really nice balance. But 1 or 2 tracks to me feels like the optimal list, because more than that, it starts to get overwhelming.
The 2-track, though, can also bring some hard dilemmas, like last year at Rails World when Chris was talking, but Rosa was also talking. And I'm like, Chris, I love you, bro, but I really want to hear this talk.
Yeah. No, I
remember you saying that to
Rosa's
Chris's
talk,
face.
So.
I wanted him to know, like, I support him. Like, I want him to know I wanted to be there. It was just like, this
you could just kind of just drop your cardboard cutout in the front row of, my talk, and then I'll know.
Yeah, I'll bring that to Rails World this year at Texas.
Yeah, there we go. Cardboard cutouts of us around the conference. People can draw mustaches on us and whatever. That would be fun.
One time at one of our work retreats, only one of our developers wasn't able to come. And so Jason made and bought like a cardboard cutout, like a life-size one. And we just kind of brought it around with us. It was hilarious.
Did he fly with it in?
No, I think he
had it shipped there.
I think he had it shipped there, or he had it like printed there at like a FedEx or something. Yeah, wherever you do that.
I would enjoy going through TSA. You got to slide the cardboard cutout through the X-ray machine.
No, they're gonna need to wand him too. He might be carrying something, Give him a pat down.
Please up to your pocket, sir.
He's not complying. He's not complying.
Fold him up, put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Roll him through. Yeah. Blue Ridge has always been one. For whatever reason, I never make it to it. There's a few like that. Rocky Mountain Ruby, same thing. I've always wanted to go. Sin City Ruby was the same thing for me too. I think it's because I have very young children. That's the biggest predicament for me going to a lot of these.
Yeah.
But when I started going to conferences, Ruby Midwest was very first one I ever went to. I was in school. It was amazing and similar size. And then I went to like Ruby on Ales. There was one Ruby Hoedown, I think, something like that.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I'd have to look that one up. One of them was like free, and we like drove down from St. Louis, and then we got kind of bored during the conference. And since it was free, we were just like, let's go explore the town for the afternoon or something. And it was great. Yeah, Ruby Hoedown is on Ruby events, 5 events between 2007 and 2010 in Nashville. That's right.
Now the name makes more sense.
It was Raleigh in 2007, then Huntsville, Alabama in 2008, and then Nashville. Oh, Ruby Hoedown 2010 and Newbie Hoedown, Nuby.
Wasn't there a conference that was on a cruise ship? Or am I just making that up?
Sounds
Ruby on sales.
Maybe. Honestly.
I like remember that, but I don't remember the name of it. There was one like on a train too, or a bus. I can't remember.
So
people have done some creative stuff. Train would be super fun.
Yeah.
You can just rent out a train car. That'd be awesome. And I guess you could coordinate it without the train Amtrak knowing. And as long as you all book the tickets early enough in the one train car, and then the person taking tickets walks in and you're up there giving a presentation and there's slides, and he's like, what the hell is going on?
Where did this projector come from? I can't imagine Amtrak not trying to take a cut of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you would get in trouble pretty fast. Those early Ruby and Rails conferences and stuff back in the day, I miss those. And this is what I think gives me so much excitement for the little conferences. They're the community driven ones where somebody like Jeremy, who just has the desire to bring people together can do that. And I'm so thankful that it's not a financial disaster for them, because anybody hosting those are putting on a lot of risk to do that. And thankfully, the community shows up and supports and makes it at least break even, which is amazing. So it's really good to see, because it is quite an ordeal. And as Jeremy's been documenting his 250 some hours to organize the conference, it gives you a bit of a taste of what you have to do in addition to your job. That's a lot of extra hours to put into something when you've got family and stuff as well that you can't neglect. So yeah, big effort. So props to everybody doing that.
Yep. It turned out really, really well. It was a really just smooth conference experience. I'm really glad I was able to go to it.
Are you tired of babysitting your job queues? Let us do it for you. JudoScale monitors and autoscales your job queues so you can stop babysitting and get back to coding. We support Sidekick, SolidQ, GoodJob, and just about every other job backend in Rubyland. And of course, we autoscale your web services too. JudoScale scales up your apps faster than any other autoscaler, so request timeouts and backed up job queues are mitigated before they become a problem. JudoScale has a free plan you can use forever, so there's literally no risk, whether you're on Heroku, AWS, Render, or any other cloud platform. Visit judoscale.com and get your job queues under control.
I had a friend who said very similar things. It was really great, fun experience, and he got to meet a lot of people. So I'm glad that Jeremy keeps doing that, because I've only heard good things about it.
Yeah. I think at one point over lunch, somebody was asking if he's planning on doing another one yet again. And his response was, from what I remember, was kind of like, I don't know, because I always feel like the next one needs to be a little bit bigger, a little bit better, a little bit more put together. And with the way this one went, I'm not sure how I could improve on this one, because this one went really well. And so I don't know. I hope he does another one, because I would love to go to Asheville again.
I would love to go. And just like Chris, it always seems to kind of fall in a time where I'm like, I just can't do it. And I would love to, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting feeling that he's got with wanting to make it better every time, because I certainly would feel the same way. But then on the outside, I'm also like, if you nailed it, then there's your bar. You don't have to, you just aim for that again. You don't have to do better, honestly, if everybody loved it. I'm curious to hear if there was constructive feedback or something that people had of things they actually didn't like or whatever. But you also have to take with a grain of salt too. It's like, you can't please everybody, and you've got a limited budget. So it's like, maybe it would be convenient if people didn't have to have 2 hours away for lunch, so everybody gets broken up. It is nice when you're at a Rails World or Rails Conf, and like the meals bring everybody into a packed room, and then you bump into other people. You sit down with a different group that you wouldn't necessarily have gone out somewhere else with. So,
we essentially did that with the lunches. We went out in kind of small groups and had lunch together and chatted about stuff over lunch, which was really great.
I always have the tendency to find a group of friends to go with, and I don't always go with strangers as much as I would maybe sitting down at a random table in the big room or something. But yeah, I would prefer the eating out, having the opportunity to see Asheville or any city where it's hosted that I've never been to or whatever. Or been to only a few times. That's always a good experience. Yeah. And that was my favorite part of Philadelphia. What's the name of the market there?
I can't remember either.
Yeah, drawing a blank. The one
Drew's
with the blueberry muffin cookies.
Yeah. One of my favorite lunch
Well, you know what? Hold on. Let's get Drew mad at us, so he has to come on the podcast.
All right, word.
He still
Drew,
hasn't
the
been on
Flyers
here, right?
Suck. Wait, maybe? I don't know.
Did he? I can't remember. But he needs to be on here at some point soon. So let's piss him off and get him on here. He's going to have to come defend himself.
The NHL finals are on right now, and the Carolina Hurricanes are putting the boom on the Flyers right now, and it's pretty satisfying.
We had the St. Louis Blues win that 1 year a while back, and all of a sudden everybody's cars had St. Louis Blues stickers and everything on them. And then it goes silent after a few years and people forget and like, okay. But we always are big fans of the Cardinals and baseball here. But yeah, the same kind of thing with when the Rams were in St. Louis. You never heard people talk about going to Rams games or anything. You could easily forget we had a team, but the Cardinals and baseball are a big thing here. I got to get back to a Blues game because hockey's fun to watch.
Hockey's dope. What I was going to say is that one of my favorite lunch experiences was during San Diego RubyConf, where Chris and Colin, I think, was it Robbie Russell that was with us?
What did we do? I can't remember.
We took the subway or the train or whatever it is down to downtown San Diego, right by the Padres Stadium, and had lunch.
That sounds familiar. I can't remember who was there. The thing I remember the most was we went to dinner and we walked under the interstate in that really sketchy freaking overpass that was dark, and you assume there's going to be somebody doing drugs under there or try and rob us or something. It was very sketchy. That's what I remember.
I remember that tunnel as well.
Yeah, I don't want to do that one again.
I like the location in San Diego. That was kind of dope.
Yeah.
Because is that like a little resort kind of thing?
It was really convenient to just have most of the stuff you wanted right there on the resort. But that one concierge that told us to go to that Mexican place and gave us that little free chips and guac or whatever it was, that place was crap. And he deserves a 1-star review because he was getting kickbacks or something on that because that place sucked.
He's getting kickbacks. That's hilarious. Dude, that's a great little side hustle.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I guarantee you that was what was happening because that place was terrible. But if he's recommending it to every random stranger that comes in, they're going to leave. They're not going to be pissed at him for too long, except I will be. Screw that guy.
Chris holds a grudge.
Clearly.
Review bomb them.
Every time I go to a new city, I ask either like my Uber driver or like the hotel staff good places to eat. And I remember one time, I don't remember if it was Vegas or somewhere else, I asked the Uber driver, was like, well, is there anything good to eat that you like to eat around here? And he kind of just looked in the rearview mirror and he goes, no. And I was like, okay, cool. Fun conversation, bro. Thanks.
Wow.
Didn't even say Taco Bell or no. He just said no. I'm like, damn, bro packs his lunch, I guess.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. That sounds like fun, just being the cynical Uber driver, just messing with people. That would be awesome. Trying to think what's new this week. Not a ton. I fly up to Minneapolis soon to do a workshop for front-end masters. You can show up in person if you'd like to come to Minneapolis, but then it's like live streamed and recorded. So people will be able to watch it. Like one of my friends actually subscribes to Front-End Masters, and he was like, sent me a screenshot and he was like, yo, no way. And I was like, yeah, they're called Front-End Masters, but now they're getting into back-end frameworks and things. But yeah, I'm going to go up and do a 1-day long workshop on Rails we're going to build like a job board, I think, in the time, I forget, it's like 8 hours, a break in the middle and stuff. So that'll be super fun. I just got to go through and do what I typically do for the screencast, which is like go build it 5-6 times. So I more or less have it memorized before I go do it. And like yesterday was one of those examples. I was working on the code and was like, yeah, let's generate the job model. Let's add a title and a company and a rich text description. And then I was like setting up some jobs will need like a URL to apply, or others will be like, send us an email here. So I was adding some validations to explain we could use regular validations and do like a conditional, like validate that there's an apply URL if the apply email is blank or whatever, and do the vice versa version of it. And then I was like, well, we could just do a generic message across the job instead, because we don't necessarily want to highlight only one, or we'll have to highlight 2 of those. And then the message might get a little weird in the validation errors block or whatever. So I was like, let's build a custom validation And then I go to write a test for it. And then it's like, well, you haven't installed action text yet. And I was like, So I was the one that also added the action text stuff to the generators. But there's no part in the generator that checks to see if action text is already installed. So my tests were failing because it was like, what is this action text column or something or association there? I forget what the exact error was, but this is the crap that like, ideally I walk you into this. So maybe we make a job model in the workshop, but we leave out the description intentionally so we can just look at active record. Then we can get into adding action text and a little bit more complex stuff, because that one's like extra tables that Rails manages and you don't ever have to touch them and whatever. But like, if we just do all that in the workshop and let's just install action text, we'll talk about it later. Not maybe the best flow to like ease into those things. So it's been sort of a challenge where you're like, you take it all for granted once you've done this a few times and you go through it step by step for a newbie and you're like, there's about 15 different dependency things I need to explain before we can even get to some of these steps. Maybe we should take a step back and like break this up in some way. And you want to try and do some repetition where it's like, we build the jobs controller, but if we start with the index action, which we want to default the route to go to, we don't want to like start rendering jobs because you know what? We haven't actually created any jobs in the database unless we did them in like the Rails console or something. And you end up with, how the heck do I decide what the flow should be to go teach this? And that's quite a challenge to get smooth, I feel like. So I'm in the midst of figuring that out and I'm getting there, but it takes some time. But looking forward to meeting everybody in person. What was it? That one RubyConf in Chicago, I think, was maybe the one I did a workshop on Stripe webhook processing stuff. I haven't done a real life workshop in forever, so that'll be kind of fun to do.
You were talking about validations, and it made me think of this. I don't want to say the situation that came up this week, and I'd be interested in y'all's thoughts on it. So we are doing something with Stripe where you hit a link and it does the deep linking stuff with a few parameters so that we can open the billing portal or whatever. And I was reviewing some of this code and I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, well now they can pass in this quantity param, or when they click the link, it passes a quantity param and that gets sent to Stripe. I was like, I think we want to protect this because what if they munge with the URL and it comes across as like a quantity that's not in the list that we want it to be? And we were talking about it and I was just thinking of like, I want to protect this on our end before it goes to Stripe. And my project partner was like, I think we need a validation so that when it comes back from Stripe, we validate it there. And I think we kind of decided like, well, this might not be the right thing because we don't want Stripe to like, if it's coming from Stripe, we don't want to like reject it and then force it into like a retry thing. But when we were talking about it, it's like, okay, well, my project partner was like, well, we should just hoist this onto a column on the table and then add the validation there. And I was like, I wonder if we could just write a custom validation that checks the JSON directly. And I'm curious if y'all have any thoughts on that. If you have like a Stripe, if you're saving Stripe data on a table and you want to add a validation on something inside that, do you hoist it onto the table itself or do you do a validation on the JSON?
I think in Pay, I feel like we added a quantity maybe to the subscription at some point, but that was like naive because your subscription in Stripe at least can have multiple line items and they can have different quantities for each. And like, that's one of those cases of like, if at all possible, do a has many just to save you trouble in the future. If there is ever going to be a chance of having multiple of something instead of like a has one, if you make that mistake early, you have a heck of a time going through everything and reconciling all that. And then literally every time you render something, it has to be like, now we have to switch this from just straight up rendering the object to an array and rendering each one of those. So it kind of brings up that, as a question. If you can control, if yours is simple, like for Go Rails, a user's only going to have one line item ever. So I don't mind in that case, like pulling up the quantity to a column or something. And that can be useful if you want to query against it. So if you need to find those that are like teams of 5 or something on Go Rails, or 5 or more, it's way easier to just have a column and just query off that. But you do have to be careful that anytime that JSON updates, that it keeps that in sync. So it's almost a built-in counter cache-esque thing you've got to maintain. So there's that. But it can be really convenient for querying, for reporting and other things, to not have to go through the JSON. Is this a process that they could, in theory, manipulate that number, and then if the validation happens after Stripe checkout, then they've already paid for like a quantity of the wrong number, and then you have to like refund it and send them back through or something?
Well,
that sounds painful.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that is kind of just another point of why I was like, I think we should just fix this before it goes to Stripe. Yeah. It wasn't so much that they would pay the wrong quantity. It was more like, because basically what we had is you click a button and that sends a request to a controller to then create the Stripe deep link stuff. And on that request to the controller, it shows that the quantity is like a param in there. And I was like, what if they change the quantity such that it's in the right range, but it's not what it's supposed to be, right? Like it's supposed to be like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, for example, and they munged the parameter and put, 99. So they're not overpaying. Yeah. We did some guards to like make sure that like if they try to do something weird here, like if they try to change it from like downgrade to an upgrade, we'll catch that and automatically switch them into the upgrade. So like we were protected against that. It was more so like, I was like, okay, what if they're not trying to do a higher limit? They're just trying to do a limit in between the range. I was like, that's what I was trying to protect against. So they're not necessarily going to overpay. They've gotten themselves into this.
Is it supposed to be divisible by 100 or something like that?
I just used 100 as an example. We have constants that store like the valid numbers.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Was like if there's some sort of algorithm or like consistency to the options available, I would do my best to try to validate it before the Stripe link is created and you send them over. Because once they're on Stripe, they don't have the ability to edit that. Like you have to enable that like on a checkout session or whatever. And I think on those two, you can limit the minimum and maximum quantities. Like I think for Go Rails, when you sign up for a team, there's like a minimum of 2 or something. So that way it's like, well, you're signing up for a team and a team of 1 doesn't really make sense. That was, I think, one of the options we can apply, but it's pretty rudimentary there. But yeah, I would try to do as much validation up front as possible. And then, maybe there's a way afterwards to check and make sure it's accurate too. And then, I don't know, it would be much more trouble after the customer's paid to correct it, I would think. So if it's possible at all to do it ahead of time, do it ahead of time. That would be my thinking with it.
Yeah, because I was also just concerned. It's like, okay, well, if they do get themselves in this weird state and we don't allow the record to be saved when it comes back, like the webhook tries to create this record and we're like, sorry, that doesn't pass validation. So then they get into like a Stripe retry loop. And how are we going to learn that that's like a problem that we need to like, they did this and how are we going to know about that? So I was just kind of validating.
Right, that's a really good point there of like, so you were just reminding me of our support app. I just fixed a bug the other day and apologized to the customers so I have like a support email address that forwards with Cloudflare email routing to Action Mailbox in our support app. And our support app does routing based on like its own domain. And Cloudflare will take the email from support at whatever domain and then add a like X forwarded for header to the email. I wasn't reading that. So then when we were checking to see if it was the correct email address and find the product in the subdomain of the domain, it didn't exist because it was the other email address. But actually, what you brought up there of like the validations caused the record not to be saved in a webhook. What happened for us was, yes, it went through the action mailbox processing, then was marked as bounced. But the benefit of still saving that record, even though it's invalid, was that when I discovered that yesterday, I could go fix the code, then go query the database for all the bounced records before they got incinerated. And I was able to reroute them. And then all of a sudden they were delivered correctly. So I was able to save all of those and not straight up lose them, which I was very thankful for. And we got them all processed, emailed everybody and said, hey, it's super sorry for this mistake. Your email got lost here and now it's fixed and won't happen again. But that kind of thing, if you were to just straight up bounce it and it just got lost forever, is pretty dangerous. So I would want more than anything to keep those records that were invalid. And maybe you need to do a custom validation thing for that. I'm not sure. But if you could build a way to do that where maybe there's a state that you could set to invalid and then skip that validation or something so that you could still save the records, but then you could email yourself or have a dashboard or something to like keep an eye on any of the ones where someone clearly manipulated the records. And this is something we need to actually like probably manually address or something. Because in theory, only people screwing around are going to be the ones that modify that quantity, which you probably have at a certain scale, plenty of people doing that. But also, hey, if they wanted to fuck around, then if it takes a few days for us to manually resolve that because you were messing with things you weren't supposed to, we're not super concerned about your happiness as a customer because you were clearly messing with things. So yeah, that's a really good point though. I just want to say is like, those are really good cases of like validations being too strict can actually be a horrible thing for you as a business where you've set too much structure. And if anything goes wrong, you have no real way to recover. What are you going to do? You're going to go into Stripe and then pull all the events from some time period and try and reprocess them, not cause duplicates and try to find those like invalid ones somehow. Like if you don't have a way to store that and then be alerted about it, then it's like your app is just, I think, just wrong, at that point. Your job as the developers to make sure all those business flows correctly as normal, and then any weird exceptions we know about and then can handle them appropriately. And in that case, if everything still kind of like worked at Stripe level, but then they didn't get associated with the right things after checkout, you need to know about that every single time. And it shouldn't go through Honeybadger in that case, because it's like, yeah, technically it should cause an error or something. But this is like a human intervention step that needs to happen and is got to be pulled out of the bulk of like the volume of errors that could be random from somebody, a bot poking around and testing homepage.zip and seeing if you respond to a .zip or a .php request or some bullshit. That is a whole incredibly important thing that a lot of developers don't think about. It's like, when things go wrong, sure, sometimes we want to just get notified about it in Honeybadger. But what about the cases where like a support email comes in and doesn't know where to get routed to? Somebody should probably take a look at that and decide manually what to do with it. And we have to have a prioritization of that at some level on the business side of things.
Yeah, anything that prevents you from making money is a problem.
Yeah, or like pissing off customers or the worst experience is when they reach out for help and never receive a response. Horrible. You do not want to be that business.
Talking about having to get all the Stripe events and then loop through them and like try to find and recreate that. I would literally rather walk down the highway barefoot in Arizona summer than do that.
I've got a good one for you. I forgot about this. Stripe never ceases to amaze me. They do a lot of awesome stuff. If you compare, for example, to Braintree, they do a phenomenal job at a lot of things. The Braintree still doesn't support like moving between an annual and a monthly subscription, which blows my freaking mind. But anyways, this week, I exported the price list to a CSV from Stripe's dashboard. And I was going to write a script or something, just querying the subscriptions that match this and try and look at cohort data or whatever. So Hatchbox had a price, two prices. We used to have a price because we would measure, to avoid rounding errors, we would measure the number of seconds a server was in use. And that was a little bit of a problem because the price was 0.000000138 or something. It was like tiny fraction of a penny per second. And there was like 2 to 3 million seconds a month. And so the invoice would be ridiculous looking, where it's like, you have this server and it's this tiny fraction of a penny times 2.5 million seconds, and your post is $10 or whatever. Your invoice is $10. That sucks. Let's try and move this to hours, and we can figure out the rounding there and decide how to do that. So when we moved from Stripe's old usage records to the new billing meters thing, we now have a price that is 0.137 per hour or something. And that works out to about $10 a month for whatever, 720 hours a month on average or something like that. So that is fine. You export the price list from Stripe's dashboard. They make a CSV and they round it to the nearest penny. So if you do any calculations of how much this customer has used or whatever, you end up being basically 37% off there or whatever, because they just truncated the 1.37 cents to 1 cent. What are you talking about, Stripe? You're literally a financial, it's like a fintech company. Why would you ever do that? If you offer the price to be in your dashboard and in your API and literally everywhere, but your CSV export doesn't keep all the decimal places? What? I have no idea what was going on there. It doesn't make any sense to me. And maybe it's just something they have overlooked because very few people use that or something. But as they're getting into stable coins and all this other stuff with trying to track token usage and whatever, it's like, those are all tiny fractions of a penny, which is also fascinating that the world is now operating at very, very small millionths of a penny and stuff these days. That is
the thing. We don't make the penny
wild
anymore.
Yeah. Thank God they're all digital.
That's
Kids will
wild.
grow up not even knowing what pennies are.
I know, right? Terrible.
What's the Satoshi for the smallest fraction of a penny? What's the name for it? The equivalent?
No idea. All I know is I
gotta
used
figure
to-
that out.
I spent a lot of time as a kid putting pennies on train tracks and then waiting for trains to run them over. And then I'd go get the flattened penny and I'm like, damn, I was thrown away. So if I had only known, the penny would be gone.
You would
Yeah,
just spend so much time destroying them.
That's better than putting them in the machine where you got to pay $1 to smash one penny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was doing
you lost a lot less. Yeah. The cheaper option there.
Fair.
I don't know what happened there with that, but I was like, what in the heck? There's so many little nuances. And that's the stuff I think I find sort of the most frustrating with Stripe. There's all these edge cases because they've got 150 different payment methods around the world. Each one of those has its weird quirks. Some you can go to your local bodega and get a voucher and then use that online and stuff. And you pay the bodega and somehow the money ends up at the website that you were paying online. Insane kind of stuff like that. But yeah, the complexity of it all is so tough. And then they're not focused as much on the core product or whatever. So they seem to be really pushing a lot of breaking changes now. We had somebody go try and check out at one of the courses on 1 month, I think it was, and we had upgraded the Stripe gem and they go to check out and we get an error because God forbid they have any backwards compatibility for the UI mode for Stripe checkout. And that option got renamed from hosted to hosted page and embedded to embedded page or whatever. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like literally you just added underscore page to two of these options and you can't print a deprecation warning and just like leave that alone, and your backend could totally handle that just fine. That's not anything hard. Nothing really broke. Your convenience of the name being a little bit more clear, great. Good for you. Put that in your docs. Keep accepting the old version of it for the next 5-10 years, because you know what? That doesn't hurt anyone to do. It's not technical debt on your side that's of any substance. They've got way bigger technical debt on other things, I'm sure. Just, do you have to do a breaking change for something that small? I don't think so. They used to operate that way, but now they're very willing to make a lot of breaking API changes, and it's being a lot tougher to keep up to date with their library changes every month now. They're pushing a lot of changes, a lot more, which is good, I guess, but at the end of the day, it's just like, great, now it's way harder to maintain, and it gets me to be a little bit more lazy, where I'm like, screw it. We just like redirect you to Stripe. We're going to redirect you for when you want to edit your subscription or something. Just send them to the billing portal, because I don't want to be building all this stuff to preview the next invoice and whatever, and then just constantly have work to do to maintain this freaking integration that shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard. And it's just getting more and more painful over time.
Dude, we got to stop it here before I start ranting, because if we do, we're going to be here for another hour.
Yeah. The only other thing I was mad about was their merchant of record. They bought Lemon Squeezy, and they may be slightly cheaper than Lemon Squeezy, but I did look at that pricing again. It was like 3.5% for any transactions that use the merchant of record, on top of the 2.9% for cards, and then 0.7% for billing and like subscriptions. And good Lord, this adds up so fast. And for what? I'm lucky that Missouri still doesn't do sales tax for these types of subscriptions that I sell, but I'm sure they will eventually. And then it'll be a much more obvious decision to like go merchant of record. But like, yeah, they offer a lot more flexibility to do things that we want, usage-based billing, but Polar's pushing hard to catch up, and they're trying to use like Stripe on the back end just as the individual payments, but they take care of the billing, subscriptions, and whatever else, so that they could replace Stripe on the back end if they wanted to with any other payment processor or whatever. And that stuff's seemingly more and more appealing every day to me. Lago's like another YC startup that does that too. You can plug in like Stripe and whatever other options that they support and kind of just use the Lago. It's like a Node app or something that you run, and it like is effectively the API you integrate with. And that's a cool idea for sure. And a little less dependency on one single provider like that. But who's going to come back and just make basic subscriptions easy again? It just feels like it's gotten so hard, and it doesn't need to be.
I heard and felt that. Oh my God, now I'm depressed.
Rant over.
And that's literally what I got to go work on after this. So very fun. So excited.
Yeah, have fun. I'm going to go not do that. Anything other than that. That's all I plan to do today. Anything other than Stripe.
That's the only thing I plan on doing today. Fun.
All right. Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Peace out.